puppy woke up this morning and for some reason felt a little bit more relaxed than usual. There was something in the air that had changed. And then he took a deep, deep smell and realized, of course, where he was, his brain was just a little bit slow. He had traveled the day before to the beautiful mountains. He was to visit one of his friends again, and right now he was lying in a small afterchamber in his house. It was messy and filled with all kinds of papers and bins and all kinds of other unimaginable interesting things. Yet right now he chose to look outside of the window and saw beautiful, beautiful mountain peaks rising up, rising up. And if you could look all the way on top, if the weather allowed, he knew that you could see the snow-covered peaks. And so Gentleman Puppy simply stared out and felt his worries drift away. He simply stared at the majestic beauty of the mountain ranges covered with the pine trees and the forest here and there. And he breathed in the fresh mountain air. And after a while, almost like in trance, he was rudely awoken. Gentleman Puppy, are you there? Are you awake already? And Gentleman Puppy, while still looking at the mountain, said, Yes, I am. I'll be there in a minute. And so Gentleman Puppy slowly got dressed and brushed the hair on his fur just a little bit, because he liked it wild. He didn't like it all too groomed, but being a gentleman does require some things at the very least. And so while he was done with his quick brush, he put his clothes on, he brushed his teeth, and he went downstairs to meet his friend. Good morning, Ori the owl, Oliver the owl, Olivia the owl. Good morning, Ori the owl, Gentleman Puppy said, and the smell of delicious breakfast hit him right in his nostrils. Good morning, Ori the owl, Gentleman Puppy said. And right then when he said those words, the delicious breakfast smell of fresh bread and spices hit him. His mouth started watering and a slow smile creeped on his face. You do realize you're one of the best friends a puppy could ever wish for, right? And Ori simply smiled at him and said, Of course I do. Now, sit your butt down and let's have some breakfast. I've already been waiting long enough. Gentleman Puppy gave a laugh and said, Yeah, sorry. know that you're an early riser, and normally I am as well, but I guess there's always a boss above a boss, isn't there? Ori and Gentleman Puppy had a laugh together, and they digged right into the beautiful, tasty, tasty breakfast. And when they had eaten everything up, Gentleman Puppy analyzed the room and looked at Ori the Owl. He was a good friend of his, a scholar, so to speak. The room was filled with all kinds of books and documents and mysteries to learn and to unravel. She was a little bit strange to most people, but Gentleman Puppy didn't mind in the slightest. If anything, he thought it added to her character and who she was. And so when he could see the little worry signs around her eyes, he realized something was up. But Ori was also a person not to quickly rely or ask for help on other people. And so Gentleman Puppy just, in his puppy kind of way, simply wanted to blurt it out. Yet he remembered his classes at Gentleman's School and quickly thought the better of it. Somebody doesn't want to tell you something, then just asking out of the blue is not really gonna draw it out. And so, not wanting to be too perturbed by everything, he hatched a plan on how to ask Ori the Owl what was bothering her. Ori, I heard the neighbors oversay something when I walked in here in this village, that something was amiss. Do you know anything? And she simply looked at him, and for a very long time, and Gentleman Puppy just simply kept the stare, not out of anger or out of a need to want, but a stare out of wanting to give comfort and being worried about his friend. And so eventually Ori the Owl slowly relented and said, "Yes, there is something. There are some rumors going by that there is a monster in these mountains. Nobody knows anything, and we don't always hear everything, but sometimes unclear. And people around here have sometimes been hearing strange crying sounds, almost like that of a ghost. And it's upsetting people. We already see fewer tourists, and it means a lot of the people here I care about are having a harder time. And I've tried investigating, I've tried figuring out what's wrong, but can't find a ghost, now can I? And so Gentleman's Puppy's mind and heart started a-blazing, and he simply smiled at Ori, and Ori realized what was going on and said, "Oh, no, 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 no. I remember that smile, gentlemen. I do. That smile means that I'm gonna have to go on long hiking trips out into the wild and the like, don't I?" And Gentleman Puppy simply smiled and said, "Yes." I will figure out this mystery. I will find this ghost for you and make sure that everyone here can be okay again and let the tourist come back in. And I would, of course, very much like such a beautiful and wise owl as you to accompany me. It's not that I would probably get lost in 5 minutes on these mountains and then never to be found again, and have to become a ghost myself and maybe haunt you. Or the owl rolled her eyes twice just to make sure and sighed. Okay, let's get out of here. And so they spend about half an hour preparing some food and drinks, getting their backpack ready, and so they set out. And first, Gentleman Puppy wanted to know what hurt the ghost and wanted to figure out anything pretty much about it. And so the owl introduced Gentleman Puppy to many people in the village, and Gentleman Puppy and his puppiest puppy smile simply asked them all kinds of innocent questions, trying to find out more and more and more. And after they did this for a couple of hours, the owl was like, well, that's it. Those are pretty much the people of this entire village. And Gentleman Puppy simply smiled and said, well, that was a productive day. The owl rolled her eyes and said, whatever do you mean? We've just talked to a whole bunch of different people. We've heard probably by now 10 different versions of what the ghost could be like, and you say it's a productive day? And Gentleman Puppy said, yes, of course. It's all about reading between the lines. We now, for instance, know a couple of things about this ghost. It only appears on clear, frosty days. Probably in the morning. Very likely only in the morning. What I have heard so far, and Ori was a bit surprised, but... And Gentleman Puppy simply said, well, if you kind of check when everyone was hearing it, it was always in the morning or very, very early in the morning or evening or however you see it. Yes, but the one miller heard it during the day, and Gentleman Puppy simply said yes, but always on a cold day. Never on a warm day or when it was really, really foggy or this or that, but always on a cold day and mostly in the mornings. So you're right, it probably has to do with the cold and something. That's already something. That already means on which days we can go out and hope to find the ghost and on which days we cannot. That's already a good clue, a good start. And so Gentleman Puppy and Ori the Owl had a wonderful dinner together and a lot of laughs about the adventures that they've had and the stories they had yet to tell each other. And they simply spent time together and jolly merry, waiting until there was going to be a really clear, cold day. And when that day had arrived, they grabbed their backpacks full of food and warm drinks and simply set out. Most of the reports of people about the ghost came from a rough area, and so they simply set out with the idea of going to the middle of it. Ori had excellent eyesight and so could easily navigate through the forest, and the eyes and ears of Gentleman Puppy were able to discern every little detail of what was going on these mountain tops. And luckily it wasn't very long until Gentleman's puppy ears picked up on a very peculiar sound. It was kind of a weird kind of a howling almost, but very vague and very, dare I say, not very human-like. And so the owl clearly hadn't heard it yet. Gentleman Puppy said, "I already hear the ghost. I think we should roughly go in that direction." And the owl got a little bit afraid. Gentleman Puppy could see, yet she always was a strong-willed person, and so she didn't show it, and she simply led the way. They probably walked through the beautiful mountainous terrain for about half an hour more, when the wailing slowly got louder and louder, and Ori the owl could now hear it as well. "Gentleman Puppy, how are we actually walking now?" And Gentleman Puppy said, "Well, we're going to the epicenter of the voice, aren't we? But don't you think that this sounds more like an echo than anything else?" And Gentleman Puppy laughed at his own stupidity and said, "Ori, you are one of the smartest people I know. Yes, you're right. This indeed sounds very much like an echo you would have on a mountain range. That's why it sounds so distorted and ethereal." And so Gentleman Puppy and Ori the owl both came up with the same idea. So we should go to somewhere lower, down in between the mountains where the echoes can actually happen. He nodded, and so they set off to one of the valleys down below. Ori knew her geography and so had a pretty good idea of where a ghost would have to be in order to have the echoes go all over the place. And so they set off, and knowing now that it was a lot less likely to be a ghost, they relaxed a little bit more and chatted every now and then about more adventures that they had had, more things they had learned, about the books they've read, the people they've met, the friends they've made, and all the things they had seen, smelled, heard, felt, touched. And the wailing in the meantime got louder and louder and less ethereal with every echo that they got closer. And eventually, late in the day, when the sun was already about to drop behind the mountain tops, they came upon one of the most beautiful valleys, one of the most beautiful landscapes Gentleman Puppy had ever seen. A valley with grass and little dots of forest stretching out, and with a backdrop of beautiful white, blue, gray mountains rising up almost to meet the sky on a cold, cold blue sky. It was beautiful to see, beautiful. He simply drank it all in, felt the tranquility flow over him, and feeling all new revitalized, they simply sat down and had some of their food, that last bit of their hot drink, and set off down the slope into the valley. And all of a sudden, Gentleman Puppy heard Ori the Owl simply scream out, "Where are you?" And Gentleman Puppy was a little bit startled. "What, Ori, what are you doing?" And Ori the Owl simply said, "Well, I don't really believe in ghosts, so it must be a person or an animal or something or somebody that is making these sounds, so we might as well tell them we're here, right?" And Gentleman Puppy smiled, and of course a part of the mystery was gone. Because indeed most mysteries turn out to not be ghosts or this or that. But there is still some magic left into this world. And one of the most beautiful and awesomest things that Gentleman Puppy had learned in his life is that there is magic all around. It's just that you have to see it and find it. And many, many things in this life are really their own kind of magic. It's just that most people don't see it. When you have your phone in your hand, isn't that a magical device? It can tell you where you are on the entire face of this planet. Within seconds, it can calculate you for how to get from here to the other side of the world, on bike, on foot, on car, and public transport in every country. It allows you to talk with people through invisible signals, etc., etc. Magic is everywhere, if you know where to look. And so Gentleman Puppy simply got a big smile on his face and howled, together with Ori the Owl screaming into the valley, "We're here. Come find us." And after a while, the howls, the ghostly-like sound of the ghost came in response. Yet this time it didn't sound so ethereal, but it sounded more like somebody in need. And so with new energy, Ori the Owl and Gentleman Puppy sped up their pace and went down into the valley. And right there, deep, deep down in the valley, on a slight slope with beautiful grass, they saw a cow. A cow mooing and mooing as loudly as it could. And so Gentleman Puppy and Ori the Owl rushed over, and the cow ran at them and kept running at them. Ori the Owl got a little bit scared and quickly used her wings to fly up a little bit and tried to intimidate the cow slightly. Because for all that a cow seems innocent, to see such a big, big creature running towards you, it is a little bit scary, to be honest. And Gentleman Puppy felt it in his paws, he felt it in his legs, Yet he held his ground and simply analyzed the cow. And that's when he got his second clue, or his third, or his fourth, depending on how you look at it. He saw that the cow was slightly limping. And so Gentleman Puppy simply said to the cow, "Can you please just stand still for a minute, and maybe I can figure out what's wrong with you?" Yet the cow wasn't really responding yet, and so Gentleman Puppy quickly leaped out of the way while the cow was running towards him. And with his dog-like instinct, took one whiff, one look, one hear full in his ear, and knew what was going on. And while the cow ran away from them, or the owl settled down, and Gentleman Puppy said, "I have a plan. I think the cow has, unfortunately, some barbed wire on his buttocks. It's why the cow is in so much pain and keeps mooing all the time." And so he hatched a plan that he would lure the cow to him, in order the owl would simply swoop down and grab the barbed wire from the buttocks of the cow. And so Gentleman Puppy set into his stride as only a puppy can, with full energy and vigor and exhilaration at the adventure, set off after the cow and tried talking to it, and slowly the cow slowed down a little bit, just enough for Ori the owl to fly and swoop over. And deftly, with her claws, she grabbed the barbed wire, pulled on it hard, and it came off. And the cow gave a big, big moo of pain and hurt, and afterwards stopped. Looked around, tried finding its buttocks, swept its tail, and simply looked at Gentleman Puppy, and Gentleman Puppy simply smiled back and said, "Yes, it doesn't hurt anymore, does it?" And the cow merely nodded and mooed softly this time and contently. And Gentleman Puppy told the cow, "I'm gonna go and look at your buttocks now and see if there is anything I can do." The buttocks said yes, and so Gentleman Puppy moved and saw a little small wound here and there from the barbed wire, but realized it was nothing too bad. So he applied some first aid. He put a little bit of alcohol on the wounds, and the cow mooed a little bit again. Then he cleaned it, and he put a little bit of a band-aid on it and said, "Just take this off after a day or two and everything is gonna be all right." Ori the owl settled down next to him, and they simply looked at each other and said, "An adventure yet done again." And Ori the owl, after releasing her stress from her body, started giggling uncontrollably, and so did Gentleman Puppy. And the cow simply looked at them, but his or hers head a little bit to the side in confusion. Yet they kept on laughing, and eventually the cow laughed with them. And so they talked for a little bit more, and the cow simply invited them, "Come on over. I have a shack nearby, and you can stay the night." And so they did, and that evening they spent raveling and looking up at the beautiful, beautiful starry sky. The kind of sky that you can only see in an area without too much light from cities. when it's all clear and cold and crispy, and you can see the beauty that is the Milky Way. And so, dear listeners, our adventure and our mystery of the ghost in the mountain range has ended, where Gentleman Puppy and Ori the Owl found a ghost and found out it was not a ghost. Yet they found the magic of friendship, the magic of helping other people, and they were rewarded with the sight of the universe and the Milky Way, a magic undescribable compared to all else. I wish for you the sweetest of dreams and the most awesomest of adventures. Good night.